Today, Nolly Elementary would like to recognize all of our November Leaders of the Month. We are so proud of all these students for their outstanding leadership in the classroom, playground, lunchroom, and in the hallways at Nolly. Every day, these students work very hard to exhibit the 7 habits. I will recognize students in each grade and tell you a little something about them. Our first Leaders of the Month are in kindergarten. In Mrs. Gubo's class, we have Cadence Hardy. Caden puts first things first. Mrs. Gubo said Cadence always gets started on her work right away and tries her best. Also in Mrs. Gubo's class is Caleb Cooper. Caleb synergizes and sharpens the saw. Mrs. Gubo said Caleb loves to run and play and he always includes people. In Mrs. Craig's class, we have Reagan Wright. Reagan is proactive, thinks win-win, puts first things first, and synergizes. Mrs. Craig said Reagan is a leader in her quiet way. We also have Gideon Lepley in Mrs. Craig's class. Gideon is proactive, puts first things first, and synergizes. Mrs. Craig said Gideon is a hard worker and he is courteous and polite to everyone. In Mrs. Zukowski's class, we have Levi McGraw. Levi is proactive. Mrs. Z said Levi is a leader who leads by example and is a role model to others. We also have Kensley Conan in Mrs. Zukowski's class, who is proactive. Kensley is kind, hardworking, and helpful in kindergarten. In Mrs. Parton's class, we have Ada Dusky. Ada is proactive. Mrs. Parton and Mrs. Costaleaf are so proud of Ada, who has become more independent in her daily schedule. Also in Mrs. Parton's class, we have Ryder Sponseller. Ryder begins with the end in mind. Mrs. Parton said Ryder sets goals for himself and works hard to accomplish them. We also had 2 students online that also are Leaders of the Month in kindergarten. We have Isabella Meadows. Mrs. Guerreri said Isabella is a quiet leader that works hard on everything she does. We also have Max Selzer in Mrs. Guerreri's online class. Max is a leader because he is always on task and happy to participate. Congratulations, kindergartners. Up next, we'd like to recognize the first grade Leaders of the Month. In Mrs. Fiesler's class, we have Sydney Swain. Sydney puts first things first. Sydney puts her learning first at school and even practices her time test at home. Also in Mrs. Fiesler's class, we have Brody Miller. Brody has been practicing putting his safety first by remembering to wear his mask every day. Way to be proactive, Brody. In Mrs. Bowser's class, we have Aubrey Warwick. Aubrey is proactive. Aubrey goes above and beyond Mrs. Bowser's expectations by reading 20 extra minutes every single night. Way to go, Aubrey. Keep reading. We also have Chance Morton in Mrs. Bowser's class. Chance is proactive. Chance is always asking questions and is willing to learn from his mistakes. Keep working hard, Chance. In Mrs. Carmichael's class, we have Trent Mazak. Trent is proactive, thinks win-win. Trent is responsible and always very considerate of others. Mrs. Carmichael said, "You are a true leader in our classroom, Trent." In Mrs. Rector's room, we have Alexandria York. Alexandria is proactive. Mrs. Rector said, "Alexandria, I can count on you to do the right thing. Keep up your hard work." We also have Levi Johnson in Mrs. Rector's room. Levi works hard to complete his assignments and do his best. We also have 1 student in first grade who is learning online, and that is Emma Wallace. Mrs. Truax nominated Emma for being proactive. Emma always raises her hand to participate during our live lessons, is early to class, and always has her work done for the week. Keep up your hard work, Emma. Now we are going to recognize our second grade Leaders of the Month. The first one is in Mrs. Van Dorsten's class, and it is Hayden Fink. Hayden puts first things first. Hayden does a wonderful job with completing all of his assignments on time and even with a smile on his face. Also in Mrs. V's room is Braden Wilborn. Braden is proactive. Braden has been working hard on completing his work and having a positive attitude about school. In Mrs. Grandin's class, we have Samantha Hicks. Samantha synergizes. Sam is always so quick to see that one student who could use a little bit of help, and she quietly goes to guide them or assist them. Thank you, Sam. Also in Mrs. Grandin's room, we have Evelyn Freeman. Evelyn puts first things first. Evelyn is my positive little leader that is always working hard, trying her best with that genuine smile of hers. Congratulations, Evelyn. In Mrs. Rankin's room, we have Lauren Boston. Lauren thinks win-win. Lauren is always willing to help and support others around her. Thank you so much, Lauren. We also have Landon Brown in Mrs. Rankin's room, who thinks win-win. Landon is a friendly boy who always is willing to help out where he can. Thank you, Landon. In Mrs. Slimak's class, we have Nora Kenley. Nora is proactive. Nora always takes charge of her learning and completes her assignments while always doing her best. Also, we have Kara Kemple. Mrs. Slimak said Kara is a responsible student who works hard and loves to participate. She is being recognized for thinking win-win, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. Great job, Kara. We have one second grader who's doing our online learning with Mrs. Truax, and that is Lana Jovanovic. Lana puts first things first. Lana is always an active participant and often turns in her work early each day. Keep up all of your hard work, Lana. Mrs. Truax is proud of you. Now we're going to recognize our third grade leaders of the month. Our first student is in Mrs. Braley's room and is Summer Nelson. Summer seeks first to understand. Mrs. Braley said Summer is new to Nolly and within a couple days of being here showed she was a leader in our room. When a little girl was in the bathroom crying from kindergarten, she listened to what the little girl had to say and went to get help right away. Way to go, Summer. We're so glad you're here at Nolly. We also have Chase Rogas in Mrs. Braley's room. Chase synergizes. Mrs. Braley said no matter what needs to be done, Chase is always willing to help a friend or a teacher. Thank you, Chase. In Mrs. Stasnis's class, we have Greta Sporup. Greta puts first things first. Greta is a hard worker and kind to all. She never forgets her job. Thank you, Greta. Also in Mrs. Stasnis's room, we have Lucas Warner, who is proactive and puts first things first. Lucas is a quiet leader in our class. He knows what needs to be done, and he does it. Thank you, Lucas. In Mrs. Esterly's room, we have Tommy Schindler. Tommy synergizes. Tommy is friends with everyone and always makes peace in the classroom. Thank you, Tommy, for your friendship. We also have Maverick Young in Mrs. Esterly's room, who puts first things first. Mrs. Esterly said Maverick comes to school every day ready to learn. Great job, Maverick. In Mr. Straub's room, we have Claire Benner. Claire seeks first to understand. Mr. Straub said Claire does such a good job at listening to others' answers before giving her own. Also, we have Mason Jansen. Mason begins with the end in mind. Mr. Straub said Mason is good at sticking to the knitting to completing his work. Way to work hard, Mason. We had one student that was learning online that was nominated by Mrs. Millville, and that November Leader of the Month is Riley Heaton. Riley has a very positive attitude about learning, and she always tries her best, says Mrs. Millville. Great job, Riley. Lastly, we have our fourth grade Leaders of the Month. Our first Leader of the Month is in Mrs. Gardner's room, and that is Ella Dolan. Ella is an all-around great kid and someone who truly cares about her learning. Mrs. Gardner said Ella demonstrates all of the 7 habits. In Mrs. Toth's room, we have Cade Sidlowski. Cade is proactive. Mrs. Toth said Cade comes in every day and gets right to work. Way to go, Cade. In Mrs. Matson's room, we have Addie Lemieux. Addie puts first things first. Mrs. Matson said Addie gets her work done and then finds a way to sharpen the saw. Way to go, Addie. We have in Mrs. Oaks' room, Carter Maisie. Carter is proactive. Mrs. Oaks said Carter is a respectful, responsible member of our class. Thank you for your hard work, Carter. And our fourth grade online student this month is Isaiah Guy. Isaiah was nominated by Mrs. Millville. Mrs. Millville said Isaiah synergizes with his peers by often offering helpful computer tips when others are having technology problems. Thank you, Isaiah. We always need some help with the tech. Congratulations to our fourth grade Leaders of the Month. Congratulations to all of our Nolly Leaders of the Month. The entire staff at Nolly is so proud of all of these November leaders. Keep up the outstanding leadership, kiddos. We are very proud of you.